Outstanding. Hey, abundant rise and amazing people. So you guys know how we do this. Freestyle Fridays is officially back. Me, Dr. Damon, the creators and co-founders of Modern Manhood of Masterclass. And as we always like to do about this time, we bring on people who make the world a better place. People that are advocates in their community. People that bring extreme value to helping us aspire to be greater versions of who we are. For that is the mission that we have here at Modern Manhood. So today we have speaker. We have, are you an author?
Not yet.
Not yet, but it's coming. I feel it. Librarian Jamaica Lewis, who has spoke on many different platforms over education, over value, over Black History Month. She's a thorough researcher. Are you a lecturer? Because I've seen you do many topics and discussions.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw you all the titles that I can. And I think that it's so awesome to have people who love research but are not afraid to challenge myths. And so, welcome to our platform. We're happy to have you. Before Dr. Damon steps on, tell us your story. Tell us, what wakes you up every morning. What is your purpose, and what allowed you to be in the position that you're in today?
Goodness. Well, first, thank y'all so much for having me on. Super excited.
Absolutely.
What gets me up in the morning? Oh my gosh. I love history. I love us. I love the variety of the culture. And I feel like my calling and my purpose is to protect our culture and to also share knowledge about the culture and to arm us with education. You know, we can't know where we're going unless we know where we've been, unless we know who we are. So
Yeah.
I really believe that's my purpose. And that just manifests itself in whether it's a lecture, whether I'm speaking to school students, whether I'm, giving someone a personalized reading list, whether I'm on a podcast,
Yes.
whether I'm on MSN or Yahoo. I mean, it just depends on, no matter the platform, my purpose is still going to be the same.
That's beautiful. That is so important today more than ever, especially being Black History Month, because so many of us don't know our history. And I just finished this book called The Broader Files by a historian, Anthony Broader, who talks about the history before Christopher Columbus. And it
Hmm.
was the first time I had read anything about like who we were in ancient Egypt, like the beginning of civilization. And
Hmm.
I thought how much of our potential has been robbed because us not truly understanding the beauty and nature of who we are. So what is probably one of the biggest insights that you've had since you've researched? And then secondly, what do you think is one of the biggest myths that people are unaware of when it comes to our culture?
Oh gosh, I could never just pick one insight. There's no way. Like we are just too vast across the diaspora. So there's no way I
Mm,
could just pick one. I think what I would want people to know or to understand the most, and this is going to be controversial. So
absolutely.
bear with me, okay?
This is what we're about.
Um, I always see, we're descended from kings and queens. Like I see that all the time,
Hmm.
right? And that's very empowering. It is very empowering, right? But we're not all descended from kings and queens. And it's
Mm,
okay.
absolutely.
There were laborers. Some of us are descended from laborers. Some of us
Right.
are descended from mathematicians. Some of us are descended from historians. Some
Yeah.
of us are descended, from stations in life that didn't always associate with royalty. And that's
Right.
okay. Like
Right.
you don't have to be associated with a whitewashed version or a whitewashed idea of what royalty is in order to be great.
That's
And I
powerful.
think that's one thing that I just wish more of us would embrace. Like we don't always have to be descended or say we're descended from royalty in order to understand our value.
That's
I
Um,
powerful.
disagree.
oh, that's
As much
fine.
as I love Jamaica, because I do. We have, gosh, this has been almost 20 years, right? Let
20
me
years.
listen. This idea that I am not descendant of the most royalist of royal eats at my heart and who I know I am as a black person. So don't you dare take my straight hair and my light skin from me. That's my history.
I was just
I'm
like,
kidding,
is he
y'all. I'm
really
kidding.
about to disagree with this? But okay,
Mm.
No.
have
So
at it.
this is my intro into the conversation because this is a space where um, I I thoroughly like enjoy what Jamaica brings to the table and to the minds of our community when it really comes to understanding what history is. Because you are so right in the space that I feel like when we take ourselves and we give ourselves that chip on our shoulder of I'm descendant of royalty, it disregards the beauty and the power of the diaspora of our ancestry, right?
Mm-hmm.
My
Absolutely.
yes,
Absolutely.
my grandfather, he was
Absolutely.
in the military, and his work in electronics and his the space and the life that he's experienced, he ain't never sat on anybody's throne. But the
Mm.
power and the knowledge and the experience that I get every time he talks about where he's been and what he's done and how what he's done with his feet on the ground on the street is is magnificent. So thank you for saying that, because that means a lot for us really getting to know ourselves. We can't just know the crown because that's not
Right.
it.
Absolutely.
I think the crazy thing about it too is although it may not be prestige in the way that it's exemplified, doesn't mean that it appreciates any value in your self-worth.
Mhm.
Right? When you think about a
Ab-
pyramid being created, the mathematician is just as important as the individual who had to carry the material that would create the whole sculpture, right?
Yep. So why
Right.
not take pride in those who carry those materials on their back?
Right.
Why
Absolutely.
not take pride in the people who developed the design? Like the stuff that we developed in ancient Egypt, in Kemet, I mean,
Man,
the
yeah.
other people are saying it's aliens just because they can't figure it out.
Right.
It's not for you to figure out. It's for you to admire. And that's okay. I think everyone involved in that should be admired, not just for the pharaohs who ended up, that being their final resting place. I think we
Right.
have to understand that, there's value in all stations in life, and
Yeah,
that's okay.
That's powerful. That's
absolutely.
powerful. That's powerful.
That's the space. Okay,
Yeah.
All right.
one of my okay. So we talked about how important it is that we understand the reality of our history, right? And so here's one of my favorite things to talk about, because people think that we have Black History Month is in February. Why? Obviously, because it's the shortest month.
No, Black
Mm.
History Month is in February because when Carter G. Woodson wanted to celebrate Negro History Week, which that's what it started as,
Mm-hmm.
it was in February. It had nothing to do with the feds wasn't out for us, like, let's give them the shortest month. No.
Right.
The original Negro History Week was celebrated in February, and it expanded out into Black History Month.
That's good. Was that an alley? Or
Huh?
did you intentionally ask that question, or is that a thought that you had,
That
Damon? I
no,
just
that
learned
was an
that.
alley. I loved hearing that. Like that was one of my favorite
Powerful.
debunked myths about Black History Month, because it
That's
immediately
powerful.
took us from a space of where we always, and naturally we're defensive because of our history and what we've been through, like on the cellular level. But the idea of really understanding that, like that was again for me, it was one of the most powerful things I've learned about it, because one, it debunked the idea that off top we're not valued, and so we're giving the less, we're given the shortest or the
Mm.
least amount, which happens a lot in our history and in our current times.
Right.
But this wasn't one of those things. And then more importantly, we're talking about a Black man who started this whole celebration in the first place. So let's
Right.
talk about what we're doing and who we are and how what we start grows from Black History Week to Black History Month to what we all say all the time, which is we're Black and history happens 365. So
Right.
Absolutely. And it's just like, why would we always want to attribute something to what someone else thinks or does of us? Like, we don't have to do that. And it takes a quick Google search to find out why Black History Month is during February, instead of just being like, well, they gave us the shortest month because we Black. And I'm like, no. And then there's no nice way to be like, no, you're wrong. So
Just is that? I mean, is there any possibility that that may not be fully accurate?
no,
I mean, for us,
no.
because it's the thing, we're so defensive, but we don't ever question why we're defensive. It just feels good to be negative like that because sometimes we need that stimulation. I don't know. I don't know. But it has been
Yeah.
There's been plenty of times we've taken things at face value because it takes effort to be able to research. It does.
It does. But okay, so here's why I get on my platform as a librarian and as a historian. Okay, so social media to me is a gift and a curse when it comes to knowledge sharing, right?
Absolutely.
It's a gift because I can make a post based on research that I've done in our archives, right? Come
Mm-hmm.
from primary sources, factual stuff. I can make a post, and within 2 days, it can be seen by 5,000 people. Okay, just for an example.
Mm-hmm.
Out of those 5,000 people, let's say 3,800 share it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now I'm reaching, at this point, I could be reaching 15,000 people just
Right.
from that share, just from knowledge that I went into archives to get. I'm saying that on purpose. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
So the curse of social media is that someone can make a contradictory post to say, no, what she researched isn't true. They can share it 9 times out of 10, just because their post is contradictory to mine, it's going to get shared more.
Absolutely.
That's the gift and curse of social media. And so it puts us in a really weird spot as historians. We have these internal conversations. Okay, yes, we should leverage social media to get more exposure for our archives, our special collections, our library collections. Yes, we should do that. Absolutely, we want to expand our reach. Okay, but we have to consider how how are we putting this information out there, and then are we making sure we're citing our sources, are we providing a resource list so that it would be hard for somebody, unless they were just being completely contrary just because they woke up on the wrong side of the bed, it would be hard for them to try to negate it. But I've seen it happen, and I'm just like, okay, as an information professional, I have a whole master's degree, right? I am trained in information retrieval. I'm trained in the study of human behavior and information. So I'm trained in to how humans interact with information, right? And I consider that when I post stuff. I'm trained in finding sources and having access to sources that other people don't have, right?
Mm.
So it's like I'm considered an expert. I'm considered a professional. This is my life's work. So how can
Right.
you, someone who hasn't put in those hours, that effort, that work, how can you come behind me and just be contrary for no reason? Or if I correct you, how can you be mad? Like if I correct you and say, okay, here's the actual information, why does that upset you?
I
And the
think
reason why
because
Well, I'm posing these questions because when I get my eventual PhD, that's what I want to study. I want to
yeah,
study why are people so why are people angry at information correction?
Ooh.
the thing about it is like a person's belief system is the construct that governs who they are. So if you place their whole existence on an idea that preserves the sense of their ability and who they are, you're threatening who they are. People take pride in having a sense of authority when it comes to knowledge. Even when it's inaccurate, it doesn't mean that you have the right to go and oppose the idea of who I think I am when it comes to ideology. So when we think about people like W.E. Du Bois, who looked at sociology, right? And looked at these conditions that said, hey, slavery impact people like this, X, Y, and Z. This is a proven fact. There were easily people that said, hey, you know what? Black people shouldn't get life insurance because they're not going to live as long because their brains are smaller. And because this person had a PhD, they're like, oh, well, black people shouldn't get life insurance because it's scientific proven that their brains are smaller. This person had a PhD, didn't make no sense at all, but he still had a PhD, right? And as we know, like the media is owned by certain people. I won't mention propaganda, but it's been a perpetuation that's been going on forever. And so, what would make it any different from you having that to any other person when it seems like there is a sense of, I guess, a organization that controls media that shapes a narrative in a distinct manner.
So I believe that we should fight media narratives with information and with knowledge and with accuracy. That's our weapon. We have archives, we have libraries, we have the elders, we have all kinds of
Hmm.
information sources at our disposal, but we just rely on one, and that's the internet. We can't do that.
Oh yeah,
I can't,
absolutely.
as a historian, I cannot do that. The knowledge I required since, my goodness, since my daddy first took me to get my first library card at the age of 7, the vast majority of knowledge I've acquired has come from either archives and special collections or sitting at the feet of our elders.
That's beautiful. What is that
That's
like?
to sit at the feet of our elders.
No, I mean the
Oh,
archives. Cause think about this, like, so I've done some research papers before, and some of it's very thorough.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not. You have to have a natural gift to be able to digest information and a thirst for knowledge to take the time to really appreciate it for what it means. But
Yep.
an elder,
Mhm.
like Damon, you talk about this all the time, how we don't have that interactive indirect relationship with our elders. We don't have that intimacy no more.
Mhm.
A lot of it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it is lost, and this is kind of how I feel about it. A lot of it is lost in kind of the hustle and bustle of the world, the space where we're interconnected with everyone else around the globe, and so it's so much easier and for a lot of us more comfortable to just go ahead and Google instead of really spending time in the space to honor those who have really come before us, who are still with us. And so, yeah, that's
Right,
definitely a space where, like you said, Donna, I've talked about that, and I think that's a big part of what I believe our collective mission is. You know,
right.
Jamaica, one of my favorite things that she does is she shares books with children, and that experience of sharing a story and passing it down in a way that's not specifically based on the internet, and being able
Absolutely.
to read stories with kids in the moment and to share that oral history or that oral stimulation about what it means to be in life and understand where we come from is something that unfortunately I just I feel like we don't do enough of that. And so when you
Yeah.
talk about sitting at the feet of elders, tell us what this is like. What does that look like for you?
For real. Seriously.
It's it's transformative, honestly. It's transformative. And I, I'm just always grateful. So I've always been curious. I've always been inquisitive, right? So I've always been a reader. But to hear our elders just talk, I mean, I didn't know about the Black history of my hometown until I was placed in places with the Black elders of our hometown. And
Hmm.
this is as a kid. So all I did was sit and listen and
Yeah.
just gather knowledge. So now, as you know, as an adult, as a historian, I just ask questions,
Yeah.
and or I just open a conversation. Um, my colleague at the library where I work, I consider her one of the elders. And she laid the foundation and the groundwork for our library. She knows every single collection. We have over 200 collections,
Wow.
just for special collections, just for archives that all focuses on Black history, of Denver, of Colorado, and of the West. She knows every collection intimately. And so when we get a new collection in, the first place I'm going is to her office to just have a conversation.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
just
fire.
talk about what this is. What's the background story? You know, okay. And then my role, I say, okay, how are we going to use this? How are we going to get this out? Donnell, like you said, it can be very intimidating to go into an institution and just sit in archives and try to sift through information. Well, that's where we come in.
Hmm.
So let us sift through that information. We're not going to censor it. We're not going to pick through it and decide what you can and can't, absorb. But let us not even translate it. Let us sort through it. Let us make sense of it, and let us develop it into something that's more easily digestible. As a librarian, I can go to any one of those 200 collections and put together a presentation about it that can appeal to every single age
That's
or
powerful.
every single learning style. Not everybody learns the same. Some people
Right.
are very tactile. Yes, I want to go get a book, read through some papers. Some people are very auditory learners. So I
Mm-hmm.
recommend ebooks, Kindles, e-readers, even websites where news articles where it can read to you.
Right.
Some people are visual and they need pie charts, graphs, Excel spreadsheets. So I have the ability to take that information out of the archive and put it into every one of those formats.
That's
So, like,
beautiful.
let us do the heavy lifting. Like, let
Yeah.
us do it. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yes. I love it because when we talk about kind of what the way I see things is if we are able to identify the resources and the strengths and the power that are in our community, we don't have to take on the entire work to figure out life
Right.
by ourselves. And so, thank you for
Right.
breaking that down for us because we are in an age where Google is easier to get to, but we got to understand the power and the strength and really the connectivity of being able to walk into a library and walk into a space where our history is being preserved and honored and really allow you, someone like you, Jamaica, to really pour into us. And
Right.
I'm gonna commit to doing that more myself and with my family because
Please do.
we don't spend enough time in that space. So thank you for that.
And
Yeah.
I
And
think I
it
think
makes
we
a difference. It makes a
I,
difference when you're walking into a space, especially if it's specifically for Black history or Black culture, when you see Black people taking care of this information and of this knowledge. That makes a difference. A
Absolutely.
lot of people, a lot of us won't go to libraries because we aren't going to see someone who looks like us. And
right.
that relatability is very key when it comes to knowledge absorption.
That's a really good point. So here's what what your last statement really sparked up for me is that when we really look at uh, being able to be open to those resources and showing up, what types of spaces like what can we bring to that? How do we bring what we know of our history to the table so that it can be a part of that? Because everybody wants to feel included. That's one of our major values um,
Mhm.
together.
Yeah, I would say I tell people you don't have to be a big name person to be important and to be included in archives. Do you have a story? Okay, I want to hear your story. Are you willing to let me record it as an oral history?
Mm,
Awesome. Is there a specialty? Do you specialize in something? Like Damon, I would love to record an oral history of you talking about your journey through school and talking about what you do now, especially when it relates to Tai Chi. How many Black men do we know are
man.
leading Tai Chi? That's a story that I would love to have in any archive because that's just not something that's happening very
Right.
often. I think if more of us realize that we do have a story, we do have a place, our stories are important, our stories have value, then we can share that. I encourage people to do that. Um, yeah, it may sit in our archives for a couple of years. Sorry, that's just the nature of archives. But I just want you to know that your story will be protected and your story will be cared for and your story will be there for future generations to come and have access to it. That's just what we do. We, at the very base level, gather stories. We gather knowledge, we gather information, we acquire it, we preserve it, we protect it, and in time we disseminate it.
That's
That's
dope.
awesome.
We got a couple questions. I
Oh,
think we
okay.
I think we undervalue the significance of having the ability to embody another being's consciousness, you guys. That's why I love writing books. That's why I love reading books. All right. Elijah says, how important is learning our proper Black history when it comes to our youth's mental development and self-confidence?
It is extremely important. It is extremely valuable. Um, we we have to. It's our job as either parents, as parts of the village, to empower our kids and to show them who we are, where we came from, and where we can go.
Mm-hmm.
When we raise our children with that inner self confidence, it really kind of spreads to other areas of their life. And I think the very base of doing that is by teaching them our accurate history. So
Makes a
very,
difference.
it absolutely makes a difference. One example I can give you, you mentioned that I was on the Scoop Show, and that's where you saw me talking. I was talking this past week. I talked about board books, which are books for children, typically newborn to 3 years old, and how very few of those books are published with Black main characters. So one of the books I promoted is called Baby Botanist. Can you
Mm,
imagine a 3-year-old reading Baby Botanist? And Baby Botanist is a little Black girl with a cute little purple bow in her hair.
that's
Can
dope.
you imagine being introduced to botany at the age of 3?
That'd be
Mm.
powerful. Powerful. That's beautiful.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I was introduced to Black history in the 4th grade. And look where I am now.
that's dope, man.
Yeah, yeah. That
That's
is.
super dope.
I
Um,
think you speak to that, Jamaica, even with your work that you do with your nonprofit. You have to tell us about what this project is like.
yes.
I call it an organization. I have an organization called Give a Child a Library.
Hmm.
And all I do is provide books to kids, regardless of location, socioeconomic status. If I have an address and I have permission, I'm going to send you books. I tend to, so my donors tend to want me to do mainly Black or books with Black people, Black characters. But there's so many classics too. So yeah, I just get donations or use my own money mainly. I buy books and I send them. Studies have shown that when children have their own in-home library, that they tend to grow up into adults who read, and it really helps literacy comprehension. It helps all of that to have an in-home library, and that's my goal. I want any child I come across to have their own in-home library, and so
Absolutely.
that's what Give a Child a Library does. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Come on, man.
Let me tell you, Jamaica reached out to me years ago and was like, "Can I send your daughter a book?" And I said, "Sure." Like, yeah, we can. We love books, and so I'm gonna tell you that book, Anansi the Spider, is still one of her favorites, and she loves it. It is,
That's dope, man.
yeah, she loves it, and thank you for that. In that space of you're building a village like across the country and abroad. I know this is a space where it doesn't even stop there, and so thank you for that, because
Yeah,
there's a
that's powerful.
there's a big part of our culture that really misses out on that opportunity, because
Yep.
we so easily drive by the library. We just pass by it on our way to the grocery store, and we pass by it on our way back from work, and we pass by it on our way to the soccer game and to the football game and to the basketball games, and we pass by it on the way to grandma's house, but we don't often take enough of the time to really go in and
Yeah.
experience it. So,
Yeah, I'm very intentional about the books I send out through Give a Child a Library too. Anansi the Spider, I sent that on purpose because where are children of any ethnicity? Because I sent that book to children of different ethnicities. Where else are they going to learn about African folklore like Anansi? They're not going to learn it in
absolutely.
school. They're not going to be introduced to it in school at all. So why not allow that to be an introduction? I'm planting a seed of curiosity by sending out the books that I send. It's very purposeful. It is very intentional. I do it with that in mind of, okay, what are these kids going to not be exposed to? I don't send out books, and this is going to sound bad. Hopefully your viewers won't take it this way, but I don't send out books about Martin Luther King, about Rosa Parks, about Frederick Douglass. I don't send out books about them. And that's because they're going to be inundated with those figures in school.
Right.
So I choose books that will introduce them to new knowledge and hopefully will plant, like I said, those seeds of curiosity for them to want to
Mm-hmm.
explore more. It starts with Anansi, and okay, it starts with Anansi the Spider. And then in the book, you learn the names of his brothers. So then you're like, oh, let me Google Anansi and his brothers. And then you're going to find that they have other adventures and other stories.
That's
And
awesome.
Yes.
then you're going to be like, oh, okay, well, this is just one. tail, what are some of the others?
Yeah.
And then you're gonna come across Brer Rabbit and things like that, that were written about. It's that's African American folklore.
Yeah.
So
Dog.
there's a method. There's a
That's
method.
ex-
There's
that's
Listen, you
something.
can
exactly
put
what
me on that
happened.
list. I know I'm grown, but I think I need to be on that list too. You know what I'm
Right?
saying? I'm just
We're-
keeping it a buck.
He's
I
a
think a
child
lot of
at
times,
heart.
even yeah, from
You want me to send
absolutely.
you a Nazi the spider?
Absolutely. Like, stop playing for real. Seriously. Like, ask Damon. I wrote a children's book, here recently, just to curb the curiosity of creation, because there are aspects of faculties that's not necessarily developed in an appropriate manner because sometimes they don't have the time, sometimes they don't have the resources, or they just don't have the capacity depending on their upbringing or where they're at. You know what I'm saying? So there's been a lot of times when I went into schools and volunteered and seen a kid that was by himself, and his parents probably locked up, so his grandparents are having to work and they don't have the best health, and this kid may learn in a certain way, but the teacher feels like, okay, I can't teach this kid the way this is because the curriculum is not written this way, so everything else is directly for everybody else and he feels left out, right? And so I love the thing that you're doing right now, being able to invest in a different way and being able to think outside the box as well. But I'm trying to make sure I keep up with the comments.
So
Elijah said he wants to have his daughter. He said, my daughter has made Oklahoma history and education and would love for her to be added to the archives. She is the youngest African American to attend the University of Oklahoma at the age of 13. She is also the youngest African American to attend and graduate from Oklahoma City Community College. And she's soon to be the youngest graduate ever at Langston University this May at 14 years old.
Woo
Listen,
woo.
she is
right.
phenomenal. The woman is brilliant. And I'm not going to just say she, like all of Elijah and his wife is just brilliant, but this girl is on fire. She is on fire. Definitely needs to be
Mhm.
there.
How
So
do we
here's
do
what you
that?
do.
Huh?
Here's what you do. Well, I was gonna say here's what you do. So I'm not in Oklahoma. I'm out of Colorado. But for Oklahoma, what I want you to do is gather some of her information, copies of her degrees, um, just anything that has to do with her and her accomplishments, even write up a bio,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. Gather all that stuff, put it in a box, take it to, or first call Oklahoma History Center, call them first, and schedule an appointment to have someone look at that collection. That's going to be the first step to getting her into archives. Even if they don't take that to Oklahoma History Center, try the Metropolitan Library System. I mean, it may take a couple of different institutions, because I'm not super up on, how can I say it? I'm not super up on who is in place preserving the Black history of Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
I was kind of sort of doing that when I was at Langston, when I worked at Langston. But since I've been gone, I'm just not. I haven't kept up with it.
Yeah.
So I'm in Denver. So if it would this was in Denver, I would be having them inbox me right now and be like, "Hey, let's talk about. Let me come visit. Let me talk with you. Let's see how we can get this added to our collections." But since Oklahoma is out of our scope for what our library does,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely recommend, because that she's not just Black history; she's Oklahoma history.
Absolutely.
So I think that should be incorporated or included into the Oklahoma History Center. Definitely call the Metropolitan Library System. I mean, someone, hopefully, if they are worth their salt as a historian, will see the value in what she's doing and what her family's doing and include her in some archives and special collections.
Man, that's
That's
powerful.
awesome.
Thank you for sharing that. Like, that's
Of
Absolutely.
course.
seriously powerful because even the thirst for knowledge and having that drive and ambition at such a young age, sometimes we just don't know how to hone it in, don't know how to cultivate it. And let me tell you, having young leaders in today's time, when everybody has such a thirst just to fit in, to be a person that thinks the way she is, move the way she is. He's been sending me like some of the TikTok videos she's doing. I'm like, fam, this is legit. We need more of this. And
Yeah.
sometimes
She
it's
is
great,
dope.
yeah, to have a person that can exemplify that frame of reference to say it's okay to be amazing. It's okay to be smart. It's okay to set new trends, new records. Like, I think that's dope, man.
Yes.
Absolutely. She is the stuff that a perfect children's book would be for. Like, she should be a protagonist in a children's book. A children's book should be written about her.
Yeah. Yes.
It's awesome.
She's working on the book. She's getting it
So
done.
speaking of
Awesome.
books, speaking of books, we can't not talk to you about what's really hot right now in the news and these book bans. Come on, catch
Woo!
us up a little bit.
Let's talk about it.
All right. So people around the country, including some legislators, have decided that they don't want critical race theory taught in schools. Okay, let's back up. Critical race theory has been around, I believe, since 80s, mid 80s, and it is taught generally in law schools. So first or second year law students take a course on critical race theory. Critical race theory talks about the different ways that basically white supremacy has infiltrated different systems in the
Mm.
United States. Okay, so that's kind of the base framework of critical race theory. Keep in mind it's theory. Okay, that's important. So a couple years back, a right wing activist dude caught wind of critical race theory and decided to go on this media circuit against CRT, and it's CRT for short. So people have picked up on that and have decided that anything, if it says black, if it has a black person on the cover, if it's blah, they're like, nope, critical race theory, I don't want it. Nope, gotta go. And so what's happening now is that legislation has been passed in a few states to ban critical race theory from being taught in schools, which it never has been taught in K through 12. It's very, very rarely taught even at the undergraduate level. So now what's happening is around the country, especially in Texas, I need y'all to get it together. Especially in Texas, you have these anti-CRT opponents who are just like, oh, that's a book about Wilma Rudolph. She talks about how she was discriminated against. No, that shouldn't be in my child's library at school. Oh, there's a book about, a black boy who is trying to affirm his identity, or he's struggling with his sexuality at 14. Nope, that's critical race theory. That should not be on the shelf in the
Wow.
library. They are very specifically targeting books by Black authors, books with Black protagonists, books that talk about racism and white supremacy, books that talk about discrimination and microaggressions. They're very, very specific. Some of these lists of books that they want removed contain up to 300, 400 books. And the vast majority of them are either by Black authors or feature Black protagonists. So, how do I feel about it? I'm going to say it more diplomatically than I said it when I was asked
Mhm.
about it before. I think it is a tenet of white supremacy to center your child's or your perceived discomfort with racism and white supremacy,
Wow.
and saying that your lens is more important than the lens of a Black child who may find themselves or see themselves in these materials. It's not fair. You're doing nothing but upholding white supremacy when you do that. When you decide that your discomfort outweighs Black representation, you're being a bigot.
Right.
You're being a bigot. And it's not up to you to decide that little Black children can't be represented and their stories can't be represented just because you don't want to have an uncomfortable conversation with your child. It's not fair. And it
Whew.
should not be up to you. You should allow the educators, allow the librarians who are trained in curriculum development who are trained in curriculum integration. This is what we do. Understand that if these books are being selected, it's for a reason. And everyone deserves to be represented in written material,
Right.
not just your child. Just because you want to shy away from the uncomfortable conversation doesn't mean that does not it doesn't override Black representation.
Yeah.
So stop being afraid of Black representation. Stop, tagging CRT with anything to do with being Black. White supremacy, discrimination, all that stuff is real. Our children deal with it daily. and they deserve to have written materials that can speak to their experiences and can help navigate them through what they're experiencing on a daily basis.
Man, especially in the day and age where the mass incarceration is because of lack of sense of identity. A lot of us have been duped in such a way, and our knowledge has been stripped and been programmed in such a way that just works so much against us. And this is because of the way the system is. That's
Yeah.
sad.
Well, there are books that aren't allowing in prisons. So most prisons have libraries, and there are books by Black authors that the prison systems aren't allowing for libraries or for people to donate, because a lot of people donate to prison libraries.
So what are some of the like
Eldridge Cleave.
what's in these books?
Look, books can change. Books are transformative. Subconscious
Yeah,
programming. Do you know what
So
books can do?
what's in
Like,
these books that
think
they're not letting in that space though? Like
I'll give you an example. Soul on Ice by Eldridge Cleaver. They aren't allowing that book in many prisons. Oh gosh. So
man, I need y'all to type these
oh,
books down that she say.
I'm like, I
KG,
need to type them out. There's the book, the Jim Crow. Oh my gosh, what is it called? Any other time I remember what the book is, but there's a book that talks about how modern day incarceration is the modern day Jim Crow. That's what it's called.
absolutely.
Um, that book is not allowed in many prisons. I
wow.
mean, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that they're just like, nope, because it's too empowering. Like, why would
Yeah.
you want a prisoner to read about how being in prison is akin to Jim Crow? Like, why would you want them if you're, in charge? Why would you want them to read that?
Think about it. It was illegal for us to read at one point. It was illegal for us
Well,
to get an education at one point.
for clarification, it
And I'm about
wasn't
to say that.
illegal. It wasn't
Go ahead.
illegal, technically. It wasn't
Okay.
illegal. Um, it was frowned upon. You, of course, could be beaten for learning how to read, because some people did educate those who were in servitude to them. So it wasn't
Absolutely.
illegal. That's another myth that I'm just like,
That's what I was about to ask you to debunk it if it's not true. I was just about to
it's
say
not.
that.
It's not true. It wasn't illegal. It was definitely widely frowned upon, um, but it wasn't necessarily against the law. It
Okay.
was just it didn't have people educating those in servitude to them didn't happen very often. But keeping in mind, even during the time we had our own newspapers, we had our own newsletters,
Absolutely.
and I would love to show y'all. Oh my gosh, I wish I would have had these handy. Um, a lot of our Black newspapers, especially, had sections that contained phonics. And so a lot of times, if we didn't have
Hmm.
access to printed books, we were able to learn from those underground newsletters and those underground newspapers.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So I'm not going to say it was illegal as far as law,
Right.
but it was definitely frowned upon. And if it was discovered that you could read, you absolutely got in trouble.
Yeah, that was something else that I had read in Booker T's autobiography about how slave masters had helped him build Tuskegee and how they donated to the
Yeah.
efforts. I don't know if it's true, but I thought about that, how there is another narrative that we're not always taught about in regards to empowerment.
hmm Yeah, I mean, people operate from their own self-interest. And so I'm sure the people who helped him had their own
Oh,
interests at
absolutely.
heart.
So help me. So we like there's so much out there about on both sides of what we know to be true. How do what can we do? Because like I'm all about the tools and what we can do right now today
Man, that's a good
to
question.
really debunk a lot of that for ourselves and to really bring that to the table. So in the space that you're in, Jamaica, what can we do in our communities to really help get those books that we need to see out there to help to fight against that censorship that takes our humanity off the table for education. What can we
hmm
do? Because it's obvious we're in the system is it is what it's built to be. So how do we do it when we have those book bans in place? You've talked about some of the books you're going to point us in a direction of where to find some of those things. But what do we do? Because I mean, I'm like one man.
So I think there are a few things that we can do. First, I'm going to always put in a plug to visit your local public library. In general, public libraries tend to not give in to book banning. And the bigger the system, the more likelihood that those books that may be banned or removed from schools, you'll be able to find in the local library. So that's number
Awesome.
one. Number two, if you know the title or you know the book, buy it. And I know that that seems so much more simple. You know, it seems a lot simpler than it. I know I'm making it sound more simple than it actually is, because we do have to consider economics and all that. You know, we're still in a pandemic. People may not have that disposable income, but if you do, buy the book and make it available. I mean, no one can control what you bring into your home as far as literature.
All right.
So if you know your child's school has removed a book, buy it. Still have access to it. Still make it accessible. Another thing you can do is to write your letters of dissent that agree that make your voice heard. Hey, I disagree with this being removed because A, B, C, D, and E. Um, Another thing is not just write the school district, but write your legislators, who are kind of, a lot of them are behind this, and it may not seem like it makes a difference, but I mean, the least you can do is try, and the least you can do is to know that you tried to advocate for these resources and for these materials. Another thing is to engage in resource sharing. So if you happen to purchase the book, hopefully you're purchasing it from a Black-owned bookstore. Got to put in a plug for that too. Um, Feel free to share it out. I mean, share it out with other people who may not have that access. I'm kind of in the middle of trying to find some of these lists and seeing if I can add these books to give a child a library's inventory, just in case, you know, children may not have access to these books in school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, and when in doubt, talk to your local or favorite librarians. We sincerely believe in free and equal access for all. And so we want to see these materials be placed in hands, and we're going to do our best to make sure that that happens.
That's awesome.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
KG got a question. Was George Washington Carver a eunuch?
Oh boy. So first, you have to understand what the context of the word eunuch is, because eunuch didn't simply mean a Black man who did not have his genitals. So even when we talk about eunuchs, even back in biblical times, it was much more than that. So if he's asking whether or not George Washington Carver didn't have his genitals, I don't know.
That's a great way to start a conversation on a Friday morning, KG.
I mean, I've heard that. I've never just sat there and been like, okay, let me really dig deeper into this. And a lot of people cite that or say that because he has such a high pitched voice. If you ever heard his recordings of him talking, his
Yeah.
voice was very high pitched, and so people equated that with him being a eunuch. Yeah.
Hmm.
So KG, if it's my frat brother KG, sir, I will be inboxing you shortly. Um, because yeah,
Okay,
I
so I
some
want to.
people have asked me that, and I'm just like, how do I answer this diplomatically?
I think you did great. That was
I
great.
right. I like the way you approach that topic. Um, okay, so here is, we're gonna finish this one up with one of my favorite ones because I've already seen you talk about this.
Please don't, Damon. Please don't do this. Here we
Don't
go.
do this.
Go
After that,
ahead.
I got something. I got a question for you too. After
Okay,
this,
go.
I'm
I'm gonna
listening.
cross my
so
R's.
so you talked about like a lot of things that we can do as far as being advocates to get the information out. What is something that you strongly believe in that you've been putting your energy and effort towards here lately? If there was a
Hmm.
message that you like, legislation is working on this. This is something I feel like we should really place attention on, is what I'm saying.
We definitely want to place some attention on the removal of books from school libraries. That's something that we definitely need to focus on. The second thing I would say is debunking some of these Black history things. I think that we just have to be
Did it
I
get
think we're
low?
aggressive.
losing you a bit, Jamaica. We're
Yeah,
losing you a
it
bit.
got
I'm
low.
sorry.
The volume got low.
Let's see.
I thought it was me.
Okay, is that
Ah, man, we being censored. No.
everything was
Don't come
fine?
for us.
Oh,
Oh
I'm
my goodness.
sorry.
No, it's I don't think it's anything you're doing particularly, but it just feels like you're like 15 feet away now.
That's so I didn't do anything different. Let's see.
dang, man.
I believe it. She's about to give us the good.
Yeah, she was. See?
All right, so we're gonna be real quiet, and you tell us what you need to tell us.
Okay, maybe I have to speak louder. Maybe that. So the question was, what am I focusing on? I'm always focusing on accurate Black history. I want to encourage everyone listening or everyone who's going to listen, before you share that meme, do a quick search. Before you share that picture with words, do a quick search. More than likely, someone has already debunked it. So look before you share, search before you share. That if I had a theme to what my research life has been lately, is look before you share. And then, of course, pay attention to these book bannings in school, because it's going to start with books and then it's going to evolve into programming for schools. It's going to evolve into programming for libraries, and all of that will affect you and will affect your children. You should be able to go somewhere and attend a program or have books and resources that speak to your experiences as Black people. Do not let these people take our experiences and our words and our thoughts and our brilliance out of schools and away. Do not let that happen.
It's powerful.
Yes, Jamaica, the
That is
ancestors turned your
powerful.
volume back up as you kept on going.
Straight
Oh
up.
yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yes, they did.
powerful.
Thank you for that.
Jesus, this is
So we
great.
we have to ask, where can we find you? Where can we find your work? If people want to connect with you, how do we connect with you?
Yeah, send me
Yeah.
a book
So
list. Starting with the
I
spider one.
have
I need that spider one.
I have so many book lists. I will happily send those. People can find me on Facebook under Jamaica B. Lewis. You don't have to friend me. There is an option to follow me instead. You'll still get all my updates. If you want to book me, because I do not speak for free anymore,
Let's
you can
go.
reach out to Jamaica Speaks, JAMEKASPEAKS You can also follow me on Instagram for more of my shenanigans at JBella, JAYBELLUH. There's tons of stuff on there, stuff that I do as a mom, as a librarian, as a florist. I talk about all kinds of stuff on Instagram. So those are kind of the best ways to get a hold of me.
That's tight,
Yes,
man.
yes, yes. And I'll tell you, I got to throw this in there. She is also an amazing editor. Jamaica edited
Are
my book that I
you?
wrote. Yes, she
Oh, you
edited my
did
book.
say that. Okay, we're writing a new book too, so I'm definitely gonna reach out. Yes.
Yes, yes. So
Please do. And
it's
I appreciate
amazing.
the questions from your viewers. Like, they can feel free to inbox me questions. Understand that I have a whole job, I have a whole kid, I have a whole flower business, I have a whole organization.
That's
I'm a Red
beautiful.
Cross volunteer. I have a whole lot happening, so I may not get back to them in the most speedy manner, but I
Yeah, she ain't
will.
approved my friend request yet from the Scoop Show.
Yes, I
Stop it.
did.
Oh my goodness.
to
Jamaica,
get in his
thank you
feelings,
so
like,
much.
bro, I sent her a
You
friend
in
request,
there.
man.
You in there. You on there.
It's,
I approved you, I think.
it's one finger approved.
Oh, Oh my
I
gosh.
approved it. That's how I tagged you in the promo for this.
Absolutely. I'm being
Oh,
funny. I'm being funny.
thank
It did
you.
take a
How
few
much time
days
we
though.
got? Okay, we got. Oh, that's dope.
Yeah.
We were an hour. Okay, one more final question. If you could leave the world one gift that would embody your presence, what would that one gift be? A knowledge, gift, or a message?
Shoot. If I could leave the world one message that embodied me, I would tell everyone you are much more powerful than you can ever realize.
Mm,
Everything that you will ever need for this life is already inside you. You just have to tap in.
Dope. Golly.
love it.
Dr.
Thank you
Damon?
so much. Jamaica, thank you. This has been so much fun. I'm excited to see so much more of your work. And I hope everybody who's hearing this, who's listening to this, understands the power that we have, one, in ourselves, like she just shared, but also in our communities and in our libraries and in our archives and in the space where our history resides. Like, go there. We have to make sure we go to those spaces and that we bring ourselves to that so that we can really speak with our ancestors in a way that allows us to be our best selves. And so
I
thank
love
you
it.
for that message today, Jamaica. Shout out to everybody in the man cave and everybody who is in support of our mission with modern manhood. Yo, if check us out on our website, manhoodmasterclass.com. You guys know we got a lot of stuff coming up. We've got the Man Cave Meetup, which is on February 28th. And this is our Black History Month edition where we are our
Hey,
man of the hour. Our man of the hour is none other than Courtney MacWoods McLean. This guy is amazing. If you haven't seen his work with Black Wall Street Burning, the feature film, it's amazing. If you haven't seen his work as a poet, as an activist, as a DEI professional, and just as an all-around execution guide, and I'm quoting him on that because he is an
absolutely.
amazing person who represents what we talk about is modern manhood, but also what it means to be a black man and a black person who is pursuing their dreams and living out the literally like the embodiment of what our ancestors saw for us. So join us. That's going to be on February 28th from 6:30 to 9 at Kindred Spirits here in Oklahoma City. We also have the masterclass live experience. If you haven't seen what we've been doing with the masterclass, you're missing out. Check this video. I'm probably going to share it underneath this too. But we're doing the next one, which is April 2nd. It's going to be here in Oklahoma City. It's going to be amazing. You don't want to miss out on having a seat at the table. And this is my guarantee. And I used to be a little bit reluctant about it, but Donnell and I both will tell you, and anybody who's been to our masterclass events, every single man who sits down with us for a matter of 2 hours will walk out a better man. We can guarantee it.
Absolutely. By far.
And yes, so and also it's Black History Month, and so we're going out. We're taking all of this to the public at Saturday, February 19th, Modern Manhood. That's what's on my t-shirt. We are going to be at the Rose State College pop-up shop for minority-owned businesses, and so we're really excited to go out and talk about what we're doing, to talk about what else is going on in the community. If you're in Oklahoma City on Saturday, bring yourself and your kids to Rose State College Saturday, February 19th from 9 to 4. Right, Jamaica, you got any other speaking engagements coming up that we need to tell the people about so they can catch you?
I do. So also Saturday, February 19th, I think it'll be 3:30 p.m. Central, 2:30 Mountain Time. I am presenting Demystifying the Black Panther Party and Black Lives Matters organizations, hosted by my library system, the Denver Public Library. It will be virtual, so you can go to denverlibrary.org in order to sign up for the link. You do not want to miss it.
That's fire.
Yo, that is dope.
Listen, Donnell, I try not to be that, but I am that chick. I need y'all to get this. Get it in your spirit.
That's fam. The fact that they're even hosting something like that speaks volume.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, we have a collection of 41 Black Panther Party newspapers, original ones. I just got my hands on the rest of them yesterday.
Oh
Nice.
yeah, I would
So
love to
you got to
be.
share that link. Share that link with us so we can share this in
Please
our man
do.
cave and so
Oh
we can
my
share this
God.
public to let everybody
Please
know to
do.
check in. I love
Will
that it
do.
is virtual because that means we can all show up to this. Now we're going to be at an event, but we want to share this though. We want people to know that they should tap in
For
with you.
real.
So look, if you're listening to us, you're hanging out with us, look for that. We will share that link so that we can all be in the know. So that's amazing.
That's awesome.
Thank
Jamaica,
you.
KG said he loves your smile. He said it always makes him feel better. She is the GOAT. Come talk that talk, man. I had to leave you that. It's like, what is that one gift you can leave the world? He's like, her smile. It makes the world a better place.
That's
KG
it.
is amazing. That is my little brother. I love him dearly. I am so proud of the man that he has grown to be. He is incredible. So absolutely, absolutely. And thank y'all so much again for having me on. I do have like 8 other presentations and speaking engagements, but they're all for private entities, so I can't invite you to those.
Congratulations.
Um, but thank
Absolutely.
you. But I'll be sure to keep y'all posted of any public ones that I do. And I'll be sure to share this out with my networks too. So thank y'all so much. It was an honor. It was so much fun being on. And I'm glad nobody asked me about Willie Lynch.
I know.
Thank you for
Yeah.
not
This
asking
is
me about Willie Lynch. I
Ha!
appreciate it.
That's a whole other episode.
You're very welcome. Damn.
Thank you, Jamaica. Everybody out there, have a dope day. We'll see you next time.
All right. Peace out.